Welcome to Something to Talk About from the Bainbridge Island Senior Community Center. Today we're going to be talking with Rafael Escandon he's a great guy and active. I met Rafael through Bainbridge Prepares, but we're going to talk about city volunteer commissions, committees, and boards. And so we'll be doing that in just a minute, but I want to start by acknowledging that we are meeting on the ancestral homeland of the Suquamish people, the people of the clear salt water who have lived on the waters of the Suquamish of the Salish Sea since time immemorial. And we are grateful for their hospitality, for their husbandry of these lands and waters, and the knowledge that they continue to impart to those of us who have arrived later. Something to Talk About is sponsored by Fieldstone Communities of Bainbridge Island, which offers assisted independent living and memory care on Rolling Bay. Find out more by visiting fieldstonecommunities.com or call 206-594-1010. So, Rafa, thank you very much for reaching out. Tell us a little bit about how you got involved in this aspect of citizenship.
Yes, well, thanks, Reed. I really appreciate the opportunity to communicate on this. And so I got involved when I arrived to Bainbridge Island about 4 years ago. One of the first things that I did, which brought us together, was to join a different volunteer group called Bainbridge Prepares, which is responsible. Maybe your subscribers here are quite familiar with them. You saw a lot of us in the senior center during vaccination years, and then later as we outgrew that to the Commodore Gym and to other locations as well. But really got into to volunteer work at scale here on Bainbridge Island with that opportunity through Bainbridge Prepares. And again, really unique opportunity to get our community vaccinated and get them information about not just COVID vaccinations, but flu and others. So I think that's something really to be proud of. And my memories of the senior center from those experiences are really great. That led me to by training and by education, I'm a clinical scientist and a medical ethicist, and so a lot of ethics work in medicine actually is also unpaid and requires volunteers. A big volunteer commitment either within hospitals or scientific institutions to review various cases, or whether there's research. So that got me involved and interested in when an opening came on the Bainbridge Island. The city council actually has an ethics board that oversees various matters that get referred to them. It's really meant to be an educational rather than sort of a compliance committee or a punitive kind of board where we're constituted and interviewed and appointed ultimately by the city council to assist them with an impartial review of ethics complaints, and they can come from anywhere, about really any issue relating to matters of city business. So again, what we try to do there is we try to educate folks on whether it's the complainer, the complainant, or the entity with whom there's a complaint being lodged, or other members of city council. We really try to help sort of sift through what the issues are and whether there should be, or whether we would recommend potentially further review or further action. So
and then your recommendations go to the council or the staff, or
so they also when the ethics board makes a determination, it's really to another level of review. So it's really to another review officer that would then sort of apply other criteria, whether they be legal criteria or other code criteria, whether it's in the city code or in the state code, as the case may be, and then they make a recommendation on whether there should be further action, whether it's legal or they can dismiss the case there as well. So several outcomes could happen based on where the ethics board refers the particular case to. So it's been a really I've been on that ethics board for a year and a half. Like I mentioned, I'm currently the 1 year rotating chair. I'm about halfway through that term, and it's been a really great opportunity to get to know other folks in the community who've been here longer than me, who've been perhaps on the ethics board before, who understand some of the historical dynamics of what it's like to live on Bainbridge Island, and some of the changes that that happened really, and a lot of the growth that happened obviously before COVID, and some of the impact that we see throughout. So now I'm loath to call it the post-COVID period, but let's just say we seem to be a little bit beyond, thank goodness, the public health emergency portion of that.
And it also, I guess, gives you some insight into issues that are of concern to our neighbors, who issues you might not know about. And so it kind of connects you deeper with what's happening here, especially if you are still employed off island. So it's good to have it. I worked for many years overseas in Seattle and beyond, so it was hard to connect with Bainbridge without a commitment like that when you're fully employed.
Yeah, definitely. And it like I said, it does take time if you want to be able to do the job right, and take that volunteer commitment seriously. The ethics board is a little, we have a minimum of 2 openings, and some coming up next year. The commitment on that committee is 3 years. That's a little longer than some of the other committees and boards that the city sponsors. But for the most part, it's been a really great experience, and one that I would really encourage folks to look into, not just the ethics board, but to the many other opportunities.
Yeah, and we could talk about some of those as well. But I'm just curious. So, how much of a time commitment, in addition to the tenure of 3 years and the potential of being the chair on a rotating basis, how often does the ethics board meet, and do those meetings go on as interminably as the city council meetings used to?
One of the great things, so the short answer to the question is we meet monthly, and the agenda is driven almost entirely based on 2 things. Number one, what business we have in terms of either informing the city council of our plans and completion of those plans that are laid out on an annual basis. And the second, of course, is the element of the agenda is driven by if there is a complaint we receive that's under various stages of review and discussion by the board. All of our meetings do have an open public. They're all open to the public. So, and there is an open public hearing portion if anyone would like to bring or have a conversation with us. I've been going more recently, the past 6 months or so, been going to City Hall in person, but Zoom is obviously a possibility, and people have participated through Zoom as well. So, short answer is we meet monthly. It's agenda driven. Most of the meetings are done within about an hour. They don't go on interminably. Fortunately, we do have a commitment or let's say an awareness of it being a volunteer opportunity, and folks' time being very valuable. So we try to be efficient in our process, but it's really very driven by what folks have to say, and if there are complaints that we need to get through.
You were going to share your screen and show us some of the other.
Yeah, absolutely. So at the moment, I just wanted to show, number one, there's a pretty good number of city advisory groups and boards. So you'll see commissions, committees, boards, task forces, advisory committees, et cetera, et cetera. So these are all on part of the city website, the city advisory groups portion of the website. And as you can see here, anything that's not in italics is currently running. So what I can do is I can click us through here to the ethics board, and you can see that that we are we'll just go to the right hand side here first. I was approved onto the board in 2022, so I have a 3-year term, and so I'll be finished in June of 2025. Others have been on the board for longer. We have 2 open positions at the moment. Through the goodness out of their great citizenship and goodness of their hearts, our 2 members whose positions are technically open have remained with us and continue to serve beyond their terms. And this is also, I did want today to sort of be a plug to City Council and others to look at opportunities not just on the ethics board but others, and make their applications so that we can get folks who've completed this round of their service, either to allow them to step away or to fill out committees that have vacancies that may not actually be able to have a quorum, have an ability to vote in majority to complete some of their tasks.
Yeah, I have attended some committee meetings where they just have not had a quorum, so they can't do the business they need to do, and that slows everything down and is unfortunate. So that right there is a good reason to think about helping out.
Yeah, definitely. And I think, from not just from the ethics board perspective, it's just when people are volunteering and when as citizens, right, we want progress to be made, because if your board or if your committee is making a recommendation, say either to another committee or to City Council itself, throwing sand in the gears of that process by not being able to reach a quorum is frustrating, and it just ends up delaying things. So obviously we would love to get folks interested in volunteering, and again, not necessarily onto committees or boards that they have no interest in. I would click through all these that aren't italicized, and for anybody who's interested in volunteering, and see. I think, for example, on the Historic Preservation Committee, there may be some vacancies, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, they've got a vacancy here. They have 2 vacancies as we speak. So, this is another commission that folks might be interested in serving on. And all it takes is an application. The instructions are all on there on how to apply.
So as you said, there's a variety of different levels of commitment. So the terms might be different, and the frequency of meetings and that sort of thing.
Exactly. Some of them don't meet monthly. Some terms are 1 year. Some terms are 2 years. Some are, ethics board's a little one of the longer ones. But our philosophy there is that through experience comes a great deal of wisdom, and it's an opportunity to learn. Because for us, again, as a medical ethicist, one of the words I'm most loath to use is the term unethical. That just polarizes people, and sort of is not super productive. But I think if an ethics board can take the opportunity to review a complaint and maybe find the teaching points out of that complaint, and allow communication of and ultimately can make some recommendations on how either policies or processes can be amended in the future to avoid such situations. That's really what the ethics board is about, and those are the kinds of recommendations that we would ultimately make to City Council or to another committee.
One of the reasons we're talking is because although you are doing this while also employed, if you're retired or semi-retired, this might be a great way to give back to the community and in a relatively easy way if your schedule can accommodate it.
Absolutely. And also to get the word, even if you're not interested in serving, just to get yourself, just to get the word out among family members and friends and others in the community that these boards and task forces and committees are opportunities to serve and to volunteer. The more the merrier, the more diverse that we can, the more diverse the constitution of these committees often really enriches them too, by whatever demographic you choose. So I think we really obviously are committed to those aspects as well.
I attended an event about the state of our nonprofit sectors by Bainbridge Community Foundation. And one of the things that Jim Hopper, the executive director, said at that meeting was that we rank way above in per capita volunteerism on the island relative to the country and even to Seattle and King County and Washington State. And so I'm guessing that one of the challenges, and I'm so glad you're here, is letting people know that this is a way to volunteer. It's not that people aren't disposed to helping out, but it might go unnoticed. The city is sort of running along, and I feel like we all, the more that we can pay attention to these things, especially in a time where newspapers are not what they used to be in terms of deep coverage, we act as community glue ourselves. So to the extent that we can find out what's going on and participate, we can help get the word out about issues before they turn into some sort of a debacle at the city council level.
Yeah, I completely agree, and I think that's, just before our call today, I was on a call, and I'll be moderating a discussion tomorrow that talks about in my day job, talks about how patient groups who represent patients with very rare conditions, rare genetic conditions, can really have their lived experience represented accurately and in a way that a regulator like the Food and Drug Administration, like the FDA, can really understand how the challenges that they face and how their lived experience is different from a patient that has something less symptomatic or is less debilitating. So I think these are similar types of opportunities. Each committee, each board, has an opportunity to allow city council some insight into what Bainbridge residents may be encountering, and as you point out, unless we volunteer and have good diverse representation, some of those important but perhaps lesser known elements might be overlooked by city council, and that's the worst part of the for better for worse. The for better is that we can all live harmoniously and with everyone's best interests, and that the government can function accordingly.
So, if you're watching later, I have a link to the city advisory group's page that Rafael is showing in the description box at the bottom, right below the YouTube screen. Anything else you want to add before we go? I really appreciate you taking the time to bring this to our attention.
Really appreciate the opportunity, Reed. And again, I think just to say one more time that you don't have to have specific skills. You don't have to be a tax attorney. You don't have to be a judge. You don't have to be an architect. You don't have to be an expert on any of these elements that constitute these committees. I think there's a lot of interest, and there's no harm in applying. So I would say if you've got an interest and you've got some historical perspective to offer, I think most committees would be thrilled for folks to apply.
Okay, bye-bye. Have a
All
good
right,
week.
thank you. Cheers. Bye-bye.
Cheers.